fucked manly.
Yeah.
10 out of 10. It's
It does
crazy
it for
good.
me for sure.
Yeah. That scene when he's in his underwear,
Oh my
no
god.
music, that was something for sure.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
like in the real Nicolas Cage renaissance year right now. I feel like it's, or
yeah,
at least the
it's
era.
coming
That's
back.
his era. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, he
excited
needs
about that.
money.
He's got a couple castles. I mean, who doesn't? Who doesn't have castle problems at this point?
Fair enough.
Welcome to the Proof Podcast. I am Justin Mezzell, longtime listener, first time host here. I am the co-founder of Proof, and I'm really excited to be able to host my first podcast episode. Normally, you may see Sam or Kevin here. This is my first time talking with Mcbess on today's show. And if you don't know Mcbess is an artist, an illustrator, a musician, an entrepreneur, and an all-around fabulous human. Mcbess is the creator of Cel Mates, amongst other notable works in his tenured career. On today's show, we're going to talk about his prolific work as an interdisciplinary artist, making a career out of your seemingly disparate passions, and having the courage to find your voice. Hope you enjoy the show. All right, I got to start here by saying I've been a fan of your work for a long time. Working in design and illustration, I think you've always kind of been this like multifaceted, like mystical character who works in like world building illustration. And not only is it like illustration, it's straight up just like the design of it is always super sharp. The opinion from it, like you're creating these like little worlds. And I feel like every time that I see a Mcbess piece, I'm like peering in through like a little keyhole to like a world that's like operating all on its own and its own little axis. And I'm just like peeking in just for a little moment.
Oh, that's very kind. I mean, at least that's what I try to do, right? Like, it's always been, and not in a mean way, but it's always been me first, and then the pleasure of anybody else watching it. Looking at it. I mean, um, you know, the, there was no thinking behind how to develop it. It's just I was I was raised by a mom and a dad, and my dad was very much into cartoons, Betty Boop and such.
Mhm.
So when I did art school, is that me beeping? I'm just gonna
I don't think
say,
it's me because I don't
yeah,
have a
it's
computer
probably
around,
me.
but I know that Discord sound anytime I hear
Yeah, fair enough. That's Discord. Let's close that up. Yeah, yeah. My dad did had like VHS of cartoons, and uh, when I did art school and I started to copy a lot of artists that I loved, because that's always how you start, right? You have to
it. Exactly.
copy. Um, when it was time to try to illustrate things that would make my skin, give you shivers, like something that really makes you
Right.
feel something. It had to start with childhood memories. When you're free to think about anything. I mean, you can just zone out for hours playing with little toys. Like you could look at a piece of plastic and just be mesmerized by it, right? And it's
Mhm.
it's something that's harder and harder to recreate the older you
Yeah.
get. So
Yeah. I
so yeah, it started there for sure. Being trying to recreate this kind of darkness that I saw in those cartoons that I loved.
yeah, and
Untangible. Yeah.
the way you describe that is the way that it feels like it's like, because it's kind of what you mentioned. Like there's this, evocative sense of like the cartoon world, where it's, back in like the Fleischer animation days, this like rubber hose animation, which is super fun because it's so fluid. Everything bounced, everything was like,
Yeah.
working to a beat, which of course for you is great because you do music as well. And
Oh
so it's
yeah.
like even seeing your static images, you can immediately see these things coming to life, whether they're moving or not. I see like the arms moving and I see like the rays of the sunlight kind of bouncing around in
Which
all of your illustration.
which is a crutch. It
Oh, how so?
it is 100% a crutch. I I was raised by I was raised obviously by musicians who wanted me to play music. I cried myself to sleep playing, trying to play the piano and stuff like this all my childhood. So my background is more in music than art.
Kidding.
Um, but the thing the thing of it is that at an adult age when wanted to do art and animation, I I'm not really good at telling stories. I can kind of create a word and make it weird,
Hmm.
like what I see roughly in my head, but I cannot make like a intro, middle, development, like conclusion, story type of thing. So music is always kind of a yeah, I can make things go into a beat, but there's no development with the way I do things. Do you see what I mean? So it is a crutch. I like that crutch, but it's still a crutch. You see, I hope it makes sense. I hope the French is me is not fucking up the whole way I'm trying to explain things. But
No,
yeah,
no, it's not. I understand what you're saying, though. I'll only push back a bit because I feel like, you know, everybody really works with the mediums that they have, like it's their
sure,
arsenal. And I think there are some absolutely fabulous storytellers that do exactly what you're saying. They got the intro, they got like the middle part, they got the denouement, and then they have like the finale, and they know like all the parts of it and they know how it comes together. But like it's not a crutch because they're not a visual artist. And it's not a crutch that like a good director like is not necessarily the best writer. And to me, it's like I understand what you're saying about like, hey, like these are abstract stories and you're not
yeah,
having to think about like the whole like plotting of all of these things, but it's like, all it really is, I mean, and we'll get into the Dudes Factory, but the Dudes Factory kind of reminds me of it. It's like all this really is like you are laying down a canvas to bring on whether it's other collaborators or contributors or even people within a community to kind of rally around and say, this is what we're seeing in this universe. This is like the way I'm interpreting the art. And like when you put something out there, like the audience gets to kind of tell their own story with some of that. And I actually think that's a really, really powerful piece of some of the stuff that you put out. Even like the music videos that y'all have been doing with Dead Pirates. It's like, yes, it's abstract, but like in there, there's this like falling down the rabbit hole story that I think is super compelling. And it makes me like want to be in that world and even just see what the hell's going on.
yeah. Well, but the thing is, if the music wasn't there, I don't know if it'd be interesting to look at. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean that's always the way. I mean, I don't know for you, but like movies. I mean, I love movies. I watch a shit ton of movies,
Hmm.
like a
Same
lot,
here.
and a lot of TV shows as well. I think TV shows are actually better for character development. So
Hmm.
comedy usually is way better suited for TV shows than it is for movies,
Yeah.
in my humble opinion. But movies, I love movies, but usually what I love in movies is the intro. Is
Mm.
world building. We introduce, we're getting introduced to things, and I'm not so much into I'm talking about shit movies. I'm not talking about great movies that can, really keep you on. But I'm talking about
Right.
like, like blockbuster type of things,
Yeah.
like Fifth Element. I
Yeah.
shouldn't say Fifth Element is a bad movie. It's brilliant. But
I
what
know.
I mean is
It's a
like
great movie. I do
this
love
type
that
of
movie.
yeah, it's crazy. This is
Yeah.
great. But yeah, all these movies like the intro when you lay out a world like and there's no stress to try to tell a story yet.
Yep.
And also we're not being catered the whole there needs to be a love story for this kind of people watching the
Right.
movie and all that type of thing. So yeah, I like I do like to be contemplative, like to
Hmm.
be a bit more taking your time, taking in the space, the mood. So yeah, this has been the way I always wanted to do. I mean, I've really reluctantly, how do you say this? Like being
Reluctantly.
reluctantly. Yeah, I
Hmm.
can't say it. I can't say it. I'm reluctant. I'm reluctant to say I'm an artist. For years, I've said I was an illustrator.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean, this is the way I always wanted to do art was to be a bit more contemplative. You know,
I have two questions to follow up with that. Number one, have you ever seen and heard of the writer and director Panos Cosmatos?
Penos
He
Cosmatos,
did
no?
he did a film that recently came out a couple years ago with Nicolas Cage called Mandy.
Yeah,
That
Mandy.
oh yeah,
Fuck, Mandy.
Mandy's like one
Crazy.
of my favorite movies of all time. Um,
Amazing.
it's so good, but it's like it feels like an extended music video in some ways.
Yeah,
It's such a love song to music.
I agree.
And
I mean,
before
everything's
that,
so good in it. The music, the lighting, the acting. I mean,
even the
Nick
type,
Cage.
like the title slides are so
Man,
good. The supers,
I was lucky enough to see it in the cinema.
yeah.
Uh, fuck, crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
and then
ruins me. It's so good.
yeah,
But
it's
he has
pretty
this
good.
other film called, did you ever see, what is it, Beyond the Black Rainbow?
Yeah,
Which, like, to me, it's like that was like a film that it felt like like the narrative wasn't like tied up in a neat bow like you may see in like Mandy. Felt like you could understand, you could follow. There was like some world building that went outside of what they told you in the story, which is some of my favorite. Like some of my favorite
yeah,
stories are the ones that tell you like they throw you in a world like Alien is like Ridley Scott just throws you in this world and he's not going to tell you everything. He's not going to tell you why there's an engineer in the chair. All you
yeah.
need to know is you're in this world. And it felt like Beyond the Black Rainbow was like it like didn't really close everything up exactly, tie in a neat bow, but you could see there's something here. A lot of it was like a feeling. It felt like an hour and a half long music video.
I see what you
And
mean.
then Mandy felt like it really took it and he refined his vision for it. He really pulled it all together. And I think that, you know, as artists, when we're working with different mediums, when there's some that are already in our arsenal or our repertoire that we know and we can lean on those strengths. But I don't think it doesn't mean that we're not like building some of these like other areas and getting more comfortable with like, you know, whether it's when you tell a music video, it's like I'm seeing this story and yeah, it's abstract and yes, it feels, you know, surreal and loopy, but that world still feels like it's opening up and it's kind of taking me in with open arms. And I think
For
that
sure.
that's a really powerful part of us refining and expanding on that.
No, you're right. And for the last 2 years, I've been shooting live action music videos
Yeah,
with a friend called Bruno Bola, who's been we've been co-directing all these music videos. We've released one on Friday. I don't know if you saw me as a priest
I haven't.
in a church
Oh,
raising a friend from the dead. It's funny. It's
yeah,
it's it's mad. It's weird. Uh, but the what you learn when you work with live action and camera and people is that, and light as well, because like
mm,
in illustration I never got to work. I mean, I was a 3D artist for quite a while, so I was doing light inside of the computer.
yeah,
But when you work with light in the actual physical setting, a real life setting, then this becomes this whole new thing of you cannot control the output as much as you can. I mean, I guess some people can, but that's why people are now using a lot of CG and green
yeah,
screens and all these type of things, right? But like, if you're working with people and real light and real buildings, then suddenly you're like, okay, so I have to accept a certain amount of you know unexpected randomness,
right.
and that becomes his own signature. And in the end, right? I think I don't know. I would have to watch more movies from that person to be able to say if Mandy was a fluke or if it was a proper
Right.
evolution. But yeah, at least fuck Mandy,
Yeah.
10 out of 10. It's
It does
crazy
it for
good.
me for sure.
Yeah, that scene when he's in his underwear,
Oh my
no
God.
music. That was something for sure.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
like in the real Nicolas Cage renaissance year right now. I feel like it's, or
yeah,
at least the
it's
era.
coming
That's
back.
his era. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, he
excited
needs
about that.
money.
He's got a couple castles. I mean, who doesn't? Who doesn't have castle problems at this point?
Fair enough.
Matt, one of the
Castles in
things
France are worth nothing.
that's true. That's true. I did hear there's like thousands of castles in France.
Yeah, you can buy a castle like that for sure. Yeah,
I'm not buying
that's
a
not a problem.
castle. I couldn't if
No,
I
no, no. You shouldn't, because it's
yeah.
more work to keep up than to actually live. To buy. Right?
Yeah, I would assume as much. These things aren't
Yeah,
just like hanging out in great shape.
yeah. No, no.
One of the things you said that I think is so interesting, and I think about this as an artist all the time, is like you have this understanding of how the world works when you're working in a computer. So it's like when you're illustrating, when you're able to do this, it's like you get to play God in that moment, and you get to
Yeah,
do light, and you get to do shadow, and you're learning like for yourself, like oh, I prefer light this way, and it's not always the way it looks in the real world. You've got this great stippling effect that does really awesome kind of gradient work. And if you're unfamiliar with the term stippling, it's like those little dots that kind of go through. And so, you know, if you've ever seen like a lot of the traditional tattoo work, you know,
yeah.
it's like those little dots that kind of come together. And I think it's really interesting because now you're talking about leaving the screen and changing your medium again, doing something really unique. And it's true, like the world is just not as perfect as Matt can make it when you control all of those variables. But it's
No.
also now you evolving what that vision looks like, changing some of those things and accepting some of those imperfections and still carrying onward to be able to tell a brand new story in a new way. And it's like, I think that's awesome. Are you liking it?
No, no, yeah, I love shooting, yeah, 100%. I mean, I it these are 100% different pleasures, right? Like
Mhm.
it's like making music, cooking, drawing, all this will bring you different kind of pleasures because they have a certain dynamic to them. Like drawing is a lot of planning and it's a lot of like being in your own head and it's kind of like almost like meditation.
Mhm.
Cooking is even more meditation because you're really into the color and the timings and it's kind of like I don't know, when I cook it's like nothing can get inside my ears to the very uh, my girlfriend's not happy with this. I don't have the clever word to say it. I don't have the vocabulary for it, but music and shooting is on the moment. Like music is like you make it happen with other people as well, which
Yeah.
not everything is. I mean, the way I do music, some people do music by themselves. Um, and shooting is like this. There's so many unpredictable moments that happen. You, it's hard not to fall in love with this. Like I don't know. It just something that makes you feel alive and it takes so much energy out of you to make
Yeah.
something work, especially now because like I'm doing this with mostly friends and we're making things works very much DIY, and this is what I love. After you do something, you get good at it, and then you just looking for the next challenge and try to I don't even necessarily want to succeed. I just want to create stuff that I'm happy with. If people like it afterwards,
Yeah.
great. But this is not my goal in the end. I just want to be happy with what I've done. And I think the music videos that we've done for the last 2, 3 years that were live action, they're really funny.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't know.
Well,
You know,
you've
you know,
clearly done some things that worked out really well for you. But also, like, one of the coolest things about your career that I have followed is, I discovered you as an illustrator and just
yep.
kind of immediately fell in love with your style. It was very much, working in like a black and white world. And so there's a lot of these like rich textures and this like character work that really stood out. And again, this like kind of like this wonderland that also was like a little dark and a little seedy. And it's like, that made it so interesting to kind of see. But like your career has spanned so many different mediums and so many of the passions that you just mentioned. Like it's like you've done music and you continue to do music and you do illustration, you do animation and film, you've done 3D, and then also it's like you've got the Dudes Factory where you've got an entire lifestyle brand with like your voice that's a huge part of it, and your art leads out on that. And then, being out when we were in Berlin, getting to visit like the food places that you have.
Oh
And
fuck
so
yeah.
it's just like gastronomy
I'm
is a
sad I
part of
wasn't
that.
there when you were there.
I know, but we got to
Yep.
hang out in London, which was
Yeah, we did.
amazing. And I was
Which
so
is what
happy
they
you
would.
were there.
This was cool. Yeah, for sure.
But it's like, it's incredible because it's like you found a way to really lean into these things that you're passionate about and build an entire career around some of these things. And I think so many people, myself included, will like have these like disparate interests and really it's like they live in separate worlds. It's like, oh, I'm really passionate about this. And I like that. But this is my career. This is the thing that I actively work on. And maybe
Sure.
you didn't plan it this way, but I am genuinely curious. It's like, did you always have a vision that you would take all of these disciplines and all of these passions and hobbies and put them together and make something out of it like all at once?
Um, I always had a bad perspective, not vision, opinion about people who did too many things. You know,
Mm,
because like in the history of the world, you remember artists or people for just that one thing they do, right? So I always felt like people who do too many things, there's a problem there. You know, so this was always it kind of like this battle because like at the same time I hated when people were telling me, oh, you're making drawings, so the music is your hobby. I was like, fuck
Mhm.
you, it's a hobby. No, it's not a hobby. No. So I, I decided like a while back that I wouldn't have no hobbies. You know, everything I will do that I like, I
Yeah.
would just push it to the maximum that I can. And I mean, in the end, like if you apply yourself and and you know the rule of if you push something for 3 years, then it works,
Yeah.
which is, I mean, it's a it work. I mean, that's it. That's
Yeah.
the rule, right? Like you do something for 3 years and it works. I mean, that's in my opinion, that's how things work. Then like thing takes a shape that you can't escape from. The dudes, the music label, all this, they're all my my monster that just took life, and then that's it. It's just I can kill them now, but like I don't want to because this is too much fun. But yeah, there was never really a vision about mm, trying to mix all of these, but at the same time, I always felt like Hero Dream of Sushi, the documentary.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that guy who does like the egg omelette sushi for 10 years before he
Mhm.
can move on to other sushis.
That's right.
Like
Yeah.
where it's like, no, I have one life. I'm
Yep.
gonna try to entertain myself and learn as much skills as I can, and also not like I'm not, I don't want to lie to myself. I know some stuff that I'm not good at, but if I feel anything, if again like I get like you know goosebumps by doing something, then I'm gonna pursue that and try to see how far I can push it. So yeah, I mean, no, there was no plan, but I'm really happy in the end that everything kind of took off. Um, there's way of there's way around working with people that you like as well. Not thinking necessarily just in terms of business, but just
Mhm.
thinking, yeah. If you take the dudes, for instance, like these are people that the first time I met them was 11 years ago, and I remember very very clearly the day I left. I was sad. It's
Yeah.
just this type of thing where you go like, all right, it means something to me to hang out with these people. I had a good time. So yeah, we're here 11 years later.
Can we roll it back real quick? And how would you sum up the dudes if you were to explain it to somebody? And I'm sure there are some people that'll listen today that haven't heard of the dudes, may be familiar with your work. How would you sum that up?
Well, the dudes is I mean, if you want to simplify it to its core, it's a brand of clothing, right? I mean, that's it. Um, what it is actually is Harry, my partner, and his two brothers, me and my brother, um, and Arno and a couple of other friends. I'm not going to bore everybody with names, but but yeah, it's a family affair of people, like-minded people who wants to. We wanted to work together. Obviously, the clothing was the main business that they were doing even before I arrived. Was 6 months before I arrived, so not so long
Yeah.
before. And then yeah, it led to many other projects and collaboration. We had bars. You were at the restaurant we opened recently.
Yeah.
Um,
And
but
the
the dudes,
restaurant, we should note, is not just like, oh, well, they figured out how to make a burger. And so it's just a burger place. Like, this is like a restaurant with multiple restaurants and a market therein. It is an
yeah,
incredible experience that is like wildly curated. And every little stall and little restaurant that's in there feels like everything was like handmade perfectly just for this moment. I mean, the whole place, if you're an Instagram person, is just like it's Instagram corner to Instagram corner. But it's
yeah,
just because it's so aware of the vibe, like it's so alive.
yeah. No, 100. I mean, and I can't take any credit for this. Harry did the whole thing, and he found all of the people that were actually good at doing food in Berlin, which
Yeah.
is, I mean, I don't want to make any jokes here, but it's not necessarily the easiest thing in the world. And they actually did a great job. And it is quite Instagrammable, but what I like about it is that um, there's substance behind it. It doesn't just look good. It's
Yeah.
actually a place where, well, yeah, I mean, it's the only place where I can have like ceviches and
That's right.
oyster in Berlin
I
that
think
I
it won
actually
best
like.
taco as well.
They weren't best tacos, yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, I mean, we dreamt a lot with Harry and the dudes, and yeah, we took us some time to actually get some of those projects off the ground. I'm You might not believe this, but believe it or not, I'm the party pooper in the whole of the company, because I, I feel like I have a sense of timing of when things are ripe and when things are not right. Right.
Mm,
Harry is more like, fuck yeah, let's do this
yeah.
now. So, all
I
right,
can get
cool.
that.
Yeah. So I think that's why we work really well together. Is because I think like there's this balance that's happening for sure. Um, so yeah, it's been no, it's a fun family to work with for sure. And yeah, there's no, I mean, when people interact with the dudes online or whatever, they have to know that this is just a family. There's no outside hire. This is just really just those this band of friends
Yeah.
who've really never grew up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That energy though is there. I feel like that's, I there was like a year of my life where I think I only had shirts from the dudes, and that was like I just had
Oh,
like
really?
5 shirts and I would just rotate through them throughout the week.
Wow,
But
that's
it but
cool.
it's really funny because everybody who'd see it would just be like, I mean, some of them are so funny. There's like, this like kind of like witchcrafty, witchy energy for some of them, or
Yeah.
like some of them are just about sort of like, I don't know, skateboarding, which I don't do.
No, me
But I
neither.
still like to look like I do. There's just this like this funny irreverence that I think is a
Well,
huge part of the brand, and it always
100%.
feels so consistent. It feels like it's the same like person coming up with all the stuff. But I think what the dudes really captured for me is like when you love an artist, the idea of like breaking them out of the screen and bringing them out into the real world, like that's a cool thing. Like I remember I got like this really often like coffin flask from you all,
Oh
and I would
yeah.
just like always carry it. Sometimes it was just water, but like sometimes it wasn't. And it was just such a cool little item to
Just
have.
gives off the vibe, yeah. No, I mean, you know what? Like being irreverent about all this. This is my DNA basically, and I think it's also the way I made my career was before Web 2.
Hmm.
You know, it was with Web 1. It
Yep.
was with forums, and it was when it was a bit more of the Wild West.
Yeah.
So I made my name on a forum called Eat Poo. It was just,
What did
yeah. I
you do
mean,
on this thing?
Eat Poo is the biggest. I mean, at the time was the biggest art forum
Mm,
online. It had like thousands of users, and the vibe was something that actually, actually, it's funny enough. Like I can kind of find the same vibe in Web 3.
yeah.
It was just a bit more acid,
Yep.
which is what I wanted to bring to the Web 3 community
Yeah.
anyway. But yeah, Itpu was this forum of you had like loads of thread depending on what kind of art you were doing. But the recurring thing is what was sorry that if your art was not up to par, your thread would be thrown into the toilets section of the website where people would shit on you.
Yeah. That's fair.
Different era,
Did you end up in the toilets ever?
I never did, but
Good.
the risk, just the pure risk of maybe ending up in a toilet made it that you wouldn't post anything that you were not 100% proud of.
Yeah.
um I think that's what also ended up killing the forum. Someone didn't like the fact that they got shit on, and they
It just
act.
fuck it. We're done.
Yeah,
We're done with
they
this thing.
act. I think they act the forum into an abyss, and that was it.
Yeah.
um I mean, it did its time, like this was another era. But I did kind of made myself in that kind of moment where you could be a bit more salty, a bit
Yeah.
more violent. And so the dude is still, me going like, well, fuck you, this is my brand, I'm gonna do this, right? And I have sometimes some interesting interesting talks with the wholesalers. We go like, well, we can't sell that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fair.
But yeah, I mean, at the end, like yeah, the ultimate goal is to create things for people, for like mind, not necessarily like-minded people, but like people who understand that this is the mind of one person or a group of person.
Yeah.
There's no agenda behind this or whatever. I'm just trying to do something that makes me laugh at the end of the day, right?
Yes. Yeah, and I think that that really comes through. I know we talked and we were joking about before this, like how many times can an artist answer the question, like, what are you inspired by? It's
Oh
like
yeah,
such a common question, and it's
yeah.
it's it's low hanging fruit. I get it. Like usually it spins off into like
It
another
depends who
interesting
it
discussion.
depends who asked, right? If
Right,
if
but
it's
what I really love about it is like, listen, you mentioned this, and I think it's really worth repeating, which is like when you're starting art and when you're finding your style, it can be really helpful to lean into something you love already.
Yeah,
Whether it's like, for you, it's like those cartoons, like really held weight for you. For me, it was like, oh, like I grew up playing like video games. That was really
yeah,
important to me in tabletop gaming. And so like when I was originally drawing, I was like, I don't know what to draw. I was just drawing those kinds of
100%.
things. And it's like what happens from there though is like then you build on it. And then it's like you make it your own. And it's like I love that I can see the source material of where you start, but like you walk around in a world that you've created and it's left the building. Like we're off the bus stop and now in a new place and it's gone plainer. And I love that because it's what not where it comes from, it's what you do to it then. And I would say like that is to me the most incredible part of your artwork, especially the big scenes you do, where it's like,
Yeah,
you've got like a huge scene with a lot of characters, a lot of environment. It's always so it's like a very creepy Where's Waldo of like
it
looking
is.
around this room and just seeing like, oh my God, I totally missed that thing. And what the hell is that thing? Like it's such a fun experience.
Yeah, but I mean, thanks. I mean, I'm glad it has this effect on you because this is the effect that I wanted to have while I was doing it, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's you create something that you wanna. I mean, I think I create things because I want to feel like I'm inside those things, right? Like
Yeah.
fuck, like wouldn't it be nice to have this kind of mood? And I'm like, yeah, yeah, I'm gonna draw something, and while I draw this for a brief moment, or sometimes for a long while, if it's a big illustration that takes me quite a while to do, then I would be in there, my mind would be drifting off into this space and trying to think like, okay, this like the illustration I'm doing for the cellmates right now. I know I have a year of work in front of me for this one, and I'm thinking like, okay, that balcony, but the guy who built the balcony, how did he
Yeah.
build this thing? Like, is he really think of the well belly when he's doing the back of the balcony?
Hmm.
Yeah, that's I'm trying, and there's a lot of mythical story in inventing in my head that would never see the light of day.
Yeah.
But that's how involved I am in the thing, and everybody has his own way of making art. For me, this is what makes me vibrate, type of thing. It's the same with music as well. It's just I work for hours to find the right chord progression until
Hmm.
I feel something that makes me go like, oh, nice.
Yeah. That's
That's
the
cool.
vibe.
That's the vibe. I got the vibe there. I know
Yeah.
if I play it 3 times in a row, I might get a chubby. It's cool, man. Yeah, for sure.
But you can hear it even in the music. The music has like those like kind of creepy discordant moments of it too. And then it like then it'll like lay into it with some of the melodic rock guitar and stuff like that. And it's like, oh cool,
Yeah.
I can jam. But then it's like when it eases off the jam, it's like, ooh, wait, I think we took a turn. I think like we're floating down the wrong river. This is getting like a little eerie. And then it kind of brings it back. Like you're telling those same stories through different mediums. And I think the exploration of that voice is really powerful, but it's especially powerful because it's what you said. Like you're like, whether I was on a forum back in the day on ePoop, or whether I
Hey,
was
poop.
making
Yeah.
art, or whether I'm making music, like it's like they're all explorations of Matt and sort of like the things that
Yeah.
interest you, the things that get you excited about what you're building.
Well, I think so. We all have a voice, right? And we all have our own personal DNA print, character, personality, whatever you want to call it. I think the problem is more that people are a bit shy about expressing themselves, and when they express themselves, they only use one medium, right?
Yeah.
So I think I'm a mixture of being extremely egocentric and also being raised by parents who told me I could do whatever.
Yeah.
So except being good at math and all the things that actually they wanted me to be good at.
Yeah. I
But
mean, who is? Who
yeah, well,
is?
yeah,
I'm
100%.
I'm
But
just I actually fuck at math. I'm really good. I'm
you're
really
really
good
good
at
at
math.
math.
Oh, I'm so good at
I
math.
mean, I, I, c- I- I'm all right, but like compared to the studies that I did, and also my dad recently retired, but he was the lead how do you call that, the program, the lead manager. He's the guy who sent the satellite to Mars.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome.
He's like
He
a
knows a
space
thing or two about
engineer.
math.
Well, he wanted me to be good at it, but I never
Yeah.
really understood it. My little brother, fucking excellent at math and physics and all this shit. Me, and just do the doodles, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. So let me
but
ask you this. You mentioned like this idea of like there's a version of us that, has a voice
yeah,
and being able to lead out on that voice is going to take some courage sometimes, and sometimes
exactly.
you're going to find some friction whether or not everybody loves the voice you want to lead with. Is there a moment you can pinpoint where it's like that aha moment clicked for you and you felt totally brazen and comfortable in being yourself? Or do you feel like it's always kind of been that way for you and you've always just kind of led with being like, I'm fucking Matt, this is who I am, and you gotta figure out if you're into it or
No,
not?
no. It takes a while. You have to accept yourself, but like to accept yourself, you have to. I won't say love, but you have to enjoy yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to respect yourself a bit, and I think that that does take time. Like the drawing, like obviously, like was the first thing to become a professional thing. So it took a while for it to become something, and then it took a while for me to accept the mistakes. What was the style? What was to be improved? Like all these type of things, right? And then it's the same when the first time you hear your voice, you go, well, that's not me. I can't sound like that. That's crazy. Like except like, some people have very, very good voice and they know, like some people are extremely good looking and they know it's fine.
Yeah.
We're not born with the same assets, but
Yeah.
but I think like yeah, you 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 can overthink all these things. What I decided to do is just plow on, like just keep going, and then in the end I would see if I enjoy it or not. Like if it can grow on me or if it doesn't. And most of the time you realize that yeah, some of these some of these things that you felt were mistakes or default or not default. That's a French word for defect actually.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that you felt were uh, so you have your strong
Strengths and weaknesses.
strengths and weaknesses. Thank you so
Yeah, of
much.
course.
So what you felt were weaknesses um, turn out to be the thing that made you different from everybody, right? So this is where you need to go deep in. Like this is definitely the thing that you need to explore, and it's uncharted territory. It's uncomfortable, but after a while, like you make it your home, and that usually ends up being a thing for most people. I'm saying this. I'm sure some killer would have the same fucking idea as I just said. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, but Matt said this is
Yeah,
what I gotta
exactly.
explore.
I listened to this podcast from Mcbess, and he said like, this weird thing that I had that I thought was a mistake, killing
Yeah.
people.
Yeah,
I
but
should explore
I
it.
should
And
at
I was
least
like,
check it out. I should at
you
least
know
check it out. And
what?
people either
If
like you or they don't.
you know what? If no, I'm not gonna say that. I was gonna say like, if 1,000 people can learn from this and grow, and one person go and kill 10 people, it's worth it. But I don't think it is.
Yeah, that's a bad statistic regardless.
No, the math doesn't work. I told you I was not good at math,
That's right.
and
You said you were bad at math at the beginning of this. That is very
exactly.
true.
So there was a disclaimer.
We gotta bring it back though to all right, let's talk about cellmates. So we've
Mhm.
talked about Matt as this explorer, as this pioneer going off into all these different mediums. And to me, you do it brazenly. you're jumping into these things, you're giving them a go, and you end up being really fucking good at them. Cellmates is a beautiful project. If you haven't seen it, I mean, I'm sure once you see it, you'd recognize the Mcbess art style, but it's done a few really, really interesting things too, which is just like you guys own right now the black and white game. I feel like the moment I see a black and white PFP, I'm just like, oh, that's a Cellmates and it looks good. Even if it's like 40 by 40 pixels, I know that color palette and it's so ownable and it's so unique and the characters are so beautiful. Tell me about Cellmates. Like, how did this start? Where do you want to go with it? And what are you excited about?
Well, I mean, I've always wanted to expand on the horizon and see, what I could do. And you've been asking like how I felt like about doing like all these things at the same time, like the music, the drawings, the videos, and all these type of things. And I felt like, you know what, Web3 made me think this could be the place where I could merge all of these, into one kind of, I don't want to use the term metaverse, but like, the one kind of place where you can mash it all together and have initiated like-minded people, group of like-minded people that would kind of look at it and go like, yeah, I get it what he's doing. And by this as well, like that made me think about my start in forums where, well, yeah, well, it was, the web was a bit more the wild wild west, and which is what www stands for apparently as well.
That's right. Of course.
uh,
Everybody knows.
yeah, everybody knows that. uh, and yeah, so I was like, oh yeah, fuck yeah, like let's try something. And I mean, there's something in me that wants to also prove it back all again. Like I want to, start from scratch and prove that, I'm worth something even in another kind of space. So yeah, Cellmates came about like this. Like I've started to do some one-ones, got fairly lucky that they worked, and then I was like, I need to do something that's more for a bigger audience and
Yeah.
recreate a, band of brothers type of thing. Like yeah, yeah, like a group of people that would be happy to go on a journey together and
Yep.
yeah, push it forwards. Yeah. So that's how it started. And yeah, just really happy right now that I have these kind of people that I can just connect with and create things for sure.
Yeah, and it's like you've built like characters in this universe, in a location, and getting to explore the pieces of this prison. Like it's like there's like specific lingo and just like a way that this universe kind of works. And I think it's really fun because again, like this is yet another extension of being able to crawl into some of your worlds, which I think is just so much fun. And I know you're getting to do it collaboratively with a team that you
Yeah,
really love. I mean, it is. You can correct me if I'm wrong. Is it the same team from the dudes that's working on it?
it's half the dudes and half another part of. So I mean, that's what I was gonna say actually, is that it's for the first time in my life. I'm not the first time because the dudes was always a thing as well, but like the the speed at which Web3 needs things to happen requires people to be a bit more like, fuck
Hmm.
yeah, like every
Oh
day.
yeah.
So so Sam, which is my agent, actually is the guy who came up with Cellmate.
Oh,
We
great. Yeah.
knew we knew, like I wanted to do a big collection. We were briefing out names, and Baba. I can never. I'm never really good with the all the nicknames. After a year of this, after working with the board apes and all the nickname, like,
Yeah.
we have like zooms with people and nobody has like a normal name. It's quite
It's
interesting.
so true.
It's quite refreshing to talking to someone. There's Justin and Matt
Yeah,
talking. You
this
see
is
what
this
I
is
mean?
all I am. This is all I got. I just throw it all on the table.
Oh, I love that. I mean, this is, at the end of the day, I always cringe a little bit when someone calls me Mcbess, but it's because I'm old as well. I'm a dad. That's it. But
I can relate there too.
no, yeah, the project, like Sam came up with the idea of Cellmates, I fell in love with the prison idea straight away. And when I say straight away, it's like really like I was almost ashamed that I didn't think of it. Um, because like when I entered this space, I felt like there was like and I saw some people talking. I'm not the one who coined that phrase or that word or that saying, but someone talked about toxic positivity.
Toxic positivity. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it was a bull run with ETH and everything, and there's such a financial aspect attached to this as
Hmm.
well, which like there's bad and good side to it, but
Totally.
but yeah, there was definitely toxic positivity going on. People really like trying to um make themselves feel better.
Yeah.
I don't have necessarily the words, but anyway, so we wanted something to be a bit more dark, and at the end of the day, I would not have been part of any project that would have been um like happy-go-lucky. If it doesn't sound like my voice, it, I'm not gonna be a part of it,
Right.
right? So yeah, when I felt like prison, being a bit sarcastic, a bit dark, and black and white, no gray, just
Yep.
fucking like okay. So yeah, that was the idea behind it. And it's been a journey. I mean, it rocked my world. In It's been so interesting, and it's been involving all of the dudes on so many other levels as well, and doing this journey with people that you've known for 10 years. I mean, it's so cool. Like, you see what I
Hmm.
mean? Like we're all learning at the same time. We're just coming up with ideas. Obviously, there's new people who are more versed. Buba and Mist. I was gonna call him Spy because we call him Spy. Obviously, are more aware of the scene that I
Hmm.
am
Hmm.
as a classic kind of illustrator. But they hear like when we did the cell, when we did cell CTV. Every week we spend time in the studio here all together doing cell CTV with Muti, with all these type of people, and it's such a. I mean, makes me really happy, to be honest. Like it's it kind of joins all of this stuff that I like to do into this one place, and I'm just catering to a group of people that I know enjoys it. So this is cool. This is really cool. And also
Yeah.
like
Do you
I
feel
can
like?
be a bit more real, right? Like
Oh yeah.
because it's a smaller audience, so I don't have to look at what I'm saying so much, which I'm kind of yeah. It reminds me of my internet days.
Yeah. Does it feel like Cellmates gets to just be another continued exploration of just what you want to do, how you want to build it, and just like now you get to bring people along for this ride? I mean, there's no argument here about whether or not you absolutely killed with the art game, with building this world. And now it's just like you have all these people that are a part of this universe that like you get to head up. And I think like they get to trust somebody who knows how to curate this existence here. And I think that that's just it is such a fun experience for people to be a part of. I mean, I have a couple of cellmates myself. I'll just be honest, but I love the universe, and I love the art.
Well, I'm yeah. I mean, obviously, like I'm happy. Obviously, so happy you being part of like one of the most successful collection ever. Yeah, it makes me really happy that you say this. The This is not like an exploration in like I'm trying to learn this new space, obviously, but it's not something that I'm just doing like um dilettantly. Can you say that?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you have an idea and an understanding of where it is that you want to take this and what you're doing. It's not just flying by the seat of your pants and just hoping that it all works out.
No, exactly. But also like I'm not trying to do something because it's new.
Mm,
I've never was these kind of people who would just jump onto the new thing. Like
right.
for instance, like all the people who did like art. Every time there was a big controversy, especially in France. I don't know why in France, but like when there was some terrorist attack in France, a lot of people jumped, a lot of illustrators jumped on the occasion to do some illustration, um, to prove like their support.
Hmm.
Um, and there was quite a lot of backfiring from this because like a lot of people gained fame from this and made money
Sure.
from actually um so I'm not one for jumping on the back wagon. I just I sat for a year before jumping in Web3. I really studied the thing. um and people, yeah, because in 2021 people were already telling 2020 2020 or 2021, so people were telling me about that space. I really wanted to jump the gun, but I really always wanted to do my homework,
Yeah.
and also bringing the right people, not just jump by myself into the unknown. Like, so so yeah, this new project is new, but for me it's here to stay, right? Like it's here to stay as long as the blockchain allows it to
Yeah.
be there. But yeah, it's been so good. I mean, I'm just it's just this thing that I'm enjoying doing. Um, and it's a bit more rough around the edges. I can share a lot more, like, and also like I know like I'm gonna lose my voice soon with Instagram and all these places because like they're gonna go away. This is here to stay for sure. So yeah,
Nice to build that. It really
yeah,
is.
I'm
Let
gonna
me
have
ask you
my
this.
own gang.
That's exactly right. I had a friend who was talking about the idea of like, if Web 2.0 really popularized the idea of just like mass market networks like Twitter, where everything is for everyone all the time, that like their guess at what the future would hold would be a lot more tight knit communities, whether it's Discord or Slack or group threads. Like it's like people will tire of just the social media game of just like throwing something out in this broad line and really align with specified communities that really either share an interest or a passion or even just a love for one another, and just kind of like what would the world be like, and how would the way we behave online change if it was more like not for everything and trying to get the most splash value out of anybody who could possibly hear, but more just like a community that you want to be a part of, that you choose to engage with, and these smaller communities really making up how we have a voice in the space.
Yeah,
So we'll
I
see.
mean,
Who knows?
100%. All I know is that any kind of community would be better if without their aunt or uncle looking over their shoulders. That's what I
Mm,
mean.
yeah,
You see what I mean? I think
absolutely.
Web 2 is an abomination. The whole no, but really, like I
There
think
is a lot of data to support that it did not help people on a
it
personal health
it
level. That's
was
for sure.
like politically and socially, like the whole thing was an abomination. I mean, in my own opinion, like I think before that was really creative. It was a bit of a wild west. It was a bit dangerous. I'm sure it was not accepting, like depending. I understand also the privilege that I have as a white person, man, whatever.
Hmm.
So I get this 100%. But online, 15 years ago, I felt like it was a lot easier to do whatever you wanted and create whatever you wanted and find and also like have a honest feedback, which is the only thing I want. I only want people,
Yep.
like t- t- tell me to go fuck myself online. I'm happy. Give it to me. It's fine.
Right.
Like because like at the end of the day, I want that's what I want to hear. I don't want to just hear just praise and it's cool. I mean, I love
I
seeing,
can
I love
change
hearing,
the
but
the interview if you want. I can
give me
really
some
just fucking
shit.
lay it down. Yeah.
Please, please do. No, but I mean, you know what? Like these are different type of feelings, but it's still feelings that are quite, entertaining in a way. Where the French are quite known for being bitchy or like ranting a lot because this is like we love to rant. Like this is like being annoyed about something is just for the sake of being annoyed. It's not necessarily about the thing you're annoyed
Yeah.
about. So no, I think Web 2 never left any kind of joy in my personal life. Like the hashtags, the fucking Instagram, food porn, whatever. I mean, I don't know. I just none of it I liked, and the fact that I'm
Yeah.
getting links from my in-laws or my aunt or my mom, this doesn't help. You see
Yeah.
what I mean? Like I just don't care about this
But
stuff.
so I'm curious then on your take on this then. So I would agree that there's a lot of, the social media kind of age that it was really, really obviously very bad for mental health. And particularly like the idea of followings and glamour metrics and all these things being what are being led with can be really poisonous to not even just like, the general public, but also like what we create to be influenced by what the most people like.
Yeah,
Which can happen if you lean into it. It's like I remember using Dribble back in the day, and it's like I might have created a piece that I was really passionate about, and it only got like 20 likes. But then I create something that's like, oh, well, this is kind of the zeitgeist right now, and it's like, oh, there's 250 likes on that, and
yes,
that's easy to sway you to say, well, the metrics enforce that this is what I should be doing with my life, which should be making me happy. And what I noticed was like the more I did those things, the more I leaned into that and the more I hit those like benchmarks, and I was like, well, I'm not a well-known artist. I have 500 followers, but like, man, I bet when I get to 1,000, like, oh, that's when it'll change. Like, I'll be really happy.
yeah,
And it never happens. It never came. It's like I got
no.
to 1,000, and it's like nothing was different. I was like, well, but I bet 5,000 will feel different. But 5,000 will really. I think I'd be really satisfied if I just had that. And it's
It
like you
never
get
it
to these
never
things.
changes. No,
It
yeah,
never
you're right.
does. You
Yeah,
just chase it and you feed into it and you like can pour yourself and break your back on like wanting that validation, but like it's never going to come the way you think it's going to come. Like validation for me comes from me releasing something I'm really proud of, and whether or not it's everybody who really loves it, if there's just like one person who just like gets it and is like, "Oh man, I saw this and like this meant everything to me."
yeah.
It's like, "Oh my god, like
But
that's it."
the joy is fleeting. The
It
joy
is.
is really fleeting. Like you if you forget about your phone for 5 hours and you've posted something and then you open and you go like, oh, got like 50 comments or some shit like that. And you're like, oh, nice, and then you read through it and it's like cool. And then you open
Yeah.
it back like 5 minutes later, it's like 51 comments. That what? That's it.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? And I feel like in general in life, people like this is how it works, right? Like you have this range of being sad to happy, and it doesn't really matter how much your life changes. You're always gonna react the same way, like if you have a bit of money or if you have no money. Like I know in my career there was some ups and downs. The amount of happiness and stress was always the same. You would just stress
Yeah.
and be happy about different type of things, but that's all you experience. So the only thing I would say is more like it's quite important to have an horizon and to work towards something different always, like to have an evolution and to chase the that's the only thing I say when I meet students or people who ask that wrong question about like how do you get famous or
Mhm.
how do you make it. It's like that's not the point, because like the point is to have a journey that you enjoy, to have a point in the distance that you can walk towards and to enjoy that journey. Otherwise, like if you make it right away, like I always said, like if I win the lottery tomorrow, I will kill myself.
Mm.
Well, probably not now that I have a kid, because I would feel very
Yeah,
guilty.
that gets a little more complex.
That yeah, exactly. It makes it a bit more. But you see what I mean? Like I can tell how much depression would come with the fact that there wouldn't be no more challenge. I just love this. Okay, I'm gonna wake up, try to do something cool for me, and also if maybe it ends up, it's never the goal, but if it ends up changing my life, like yeah, that's amazing. I don't know. It's a tricky one. It's a weird balance. You can't put your finger on it, because the moment you put your finger on it, then it's not magic anymore and it's not
Yeah.
interesting.
I always think about that whole idea, and I still think about it to this day because it's like, fame, success, whatever it is, like all of us just deal with maybe like different bands of it. It's like no matter how successful you may think you are, you might be successful to like a group of people, but like chances are your average Tuesday of living your life is not lived like
Yeah,
drenched
yeah,
in fame. It's like you can go
yeah,
to a coffee shop and just be yourself and nobody's like there's no paparazzi out there waiting for you. It's like being successful is sometimes in like an art world. If you're not very specific artist, it's like, that's like being the most famous dentist in a small town in Minnesota. Like the other dentists know who you are and they're very excited for you. But it's
Yeah,
like,
no,
it's like the idea though that like you just get this break, everything will change for you and you'll be happy again. And if you just did this thing, you'd find that level of success would sate you and you'd be like okay with it all. And
uh,
it's like so much of the creative process for me personally is like sometimes it is a lot to have a large stage that you have to like put stuff out on. And sometimes it was like, man, it was really nice to fuck around and just like try things and just like see a new expression of something. Because particularly when I was like working in a specific style, like it was always so hard to not do something in a specific style because that was what everybody wanted from me or like a specific version of it. And leaving and exploring outside of those things can oftentimes for me feel like, oh man, this is really scary. And it's like I almost have to tune out the metrics for a bit and like really take a step back and say, hey, my evolution and where I want to go is this. The goal is not for this to be the biggest hit that I've ever had. The goal is to find validation for myself and like be aligned with like the vision and the values of where I'm going here. And if I can
sure.
do that, like then I think I could put something out that I'm excited and we'll see how it does. I hope it does well because again, I'm not a wealthy person. I hope it just works and I can continue to do it this way. But it is really hard to balance, especially as an artist, the expectations of what success should look like and the things that you really, really feel like are pulling you and you want to do.
100%. Yeah, no, no, I agree. But I think, what you always have to remember is that you do this for you, you know? And the moment you start breaking this golden rule, you won't enjoy yourself anymore, and then you won't be proud of your achievements, and then the money you're gonna get is gonna feel a bit dirty.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
that's my opinion, but
I think one of the coolest things to me about Web3 is I think it has allowed a lot of creatives to just fuck around with some wild ideas that like they wouldn't have had the ability to do before. And a community can rally around that and say, what you're doing, I'm excited about. Like as a commercial artist and working kind of in the illustration scene, I bounced around with like a lot of tech companies. So it was like, doing illustrations for like some of the big like Bay Area companies. And like all I'm really doing in that moment, and a lot of times, is just like creating a style that they'll buy, that they'll use, and that are going to be repurposed for them. And there's only so many times I can draw a hand holding a cell phone until I'm like exhausted by this very notion. But
yeah,
it's like Web3, I think, has really enabled people to be like, man, I've always had a story I've wanted to tell. I've always had like an experience that I've wanted to build. And being able to find a way to do this, to bring people along for the ride, and for a lot of people to raise the capital to be able to build out on some of these things and find those like-minded people who are like, yeah, I'm on this train. Let's go. I think that has been such a powerful activator for creators. I think for a long time, it felt like the only path forward was the commercialization for mass profit for their art, and being able to lean into this and be able to build some amazing things. And let's see what happens with the creation of like some of these wild ideas and new storytellers and new visual artists that are entering the scene. And I think for me, that is what gets me really fired up and really excited to see some of the awesome projects like Cellmates that are rolling out. See, like, I don't know what the exact next step is, but I'm really, really excited that I'm here and I get to watch and be a part of it all.
so how did you come about doing the designs? Go from like doing freelance work
Mhm.
to doing the artwork for something like Moonbirds and stuff like this.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I was a freelance illustrator for a good while, and I really the truth of it all is I didn't really have a good like hand drawing style. I'd never really learned how to do it. I'm not an art student in any real way. I mean, I grew up and was in like a kind of an arts elementary school is the only one I ever really did, where we kind of like learned. And I've always loved that. And I've always doodled. But, for me, it was like, well, the computer can work. I can use a grid. And at the time, like grid-based geometric illustration was actually like a pretty ubiquitous style that was really easy to sell to a lot of companies that were utilizing it, like Google and Facebook and the like. And so I really kind of got started as a freelancer doing illustration systems for tech companies. The first one I
Yeah.
ever did was PayPal. And then from there, I had a contact that left, and I went over to Twitter and did some design illustration systems for them. And then I did, I was working with the Google team for a while. And so it was like, for me, it was like systems and thinking at the system level. But, a lot of that stuff is like you're just making illustrations to tell a very technical informative story for something. But like on the side, I was always like creating my own little illustration projects or photo manipulation projects. And I always would think about like, oh, like, I need to do things that like feed my soul because some of this work is just sort of like, it's just like you have 400 by 400 pixels to drop an illustration in this article. Um, and so for me, it really kind of came about with, I got more involved in the product side and building product with companies, and I really enjoyed that. Like I love design. I'm not a classically trained designer or illustrator, but like I really fell in love with the product design process and working with product managers and engineers and really just kind of learning like what does it look like to collaboratively build something.
Uh,
Still doing iconography and product illustration where I could. But ultimately, I think when Web3 started to really, materialize these projects kicking off, I just like, I couldn't deny the fact that this was a big opportunity to do something weird and wild. And so Kevin and I had been working together as he was building the Proof podcast before it was Proof, which was Modern Finance. And so we just started talking more and more about what it would look like to build in this space. And I think, getting to start with the Proof Collective is really us leaning into the idea of like, how do we work with other artists to be able to release collections, get people access to artists, to build a really great space for people to build awesome stuff and collectors who would want to collect this work. And how do we, make sure that we're building a great community of people around that? And I think it took us a little bit to really recognize, given kind of our experience in product in that world and my love of illustration, and really wanting to grow this thing, it was just sort of like, why don't we do our own internal stuff as well? We don't only need to like, do the platform side of the house. Why don't we build projects and products that we're really proud of? And for me, it was just like awesome to get to jump in again to illustration as a primary asset. And I hadn't really done pixel art before. And so it was just like fun to kind of like, man, I
that's
love this
great.
kind of art. It's just fun.
I know but you did a great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. I really love it. And there's a because to actually make pixel art work and give texture to it with like because you only have moonbirds are what like 50 pixel by 50 pixel, maybe a bit
I
more.
want to say it ended up being 42 by 42. Don't quote me on that. I think it's what we ended at.
All right. You
Yeah.
see, it's even less than what I thought it was.
Yeah, but
Uh,
it follows very similar principles. Like as an illustrator, my bread and butter has always been constraint. So, and when I'm working with geometry and I was learning how to do geometric illustration, the goal was always like, I'm gonna create a grid with like 8 points on it, and I can
yeah,
only place vector points on the grid points in the intersections. And so what that did for me was like I had to start thinking, okay, well, how would I illustrate a turntable on here? And how would I reduce all the shapes to go as simple as humanly
yeah,
possible? And what do I take out? What do I keep? And so I love abstractions. And so pixel art has been a really natural kind of like leap for me because it's like all that really is simple geometry reduction. I already love like lighting and shadow. And so you can start playing with some of those things. And so it just
100%.
became a really natural shoe to put on.
No, I mean, I, I I'm a big fan of pixel art because I mean back in 2002, like I was introduced to eBoy. Massive fan of eBoy and all the pixel art that they've been doing. So I've seen some pixel art since, but like Moonbirds, I have to recognize that there's an eye and texture for it,
Thank you.
and I really enjoy what you're saying about like rules and the limitation that you put yourself. You set yourself as an artist because that's where style comes in, right? Like
Mhm.
the one of the reason I started to do just pure black and white and no gray was it became a puzzle to make things
That's right.
understandable, and especially when you do large scale illustration, only having two colors but making things still readable. It becomes this thing that's like, oh, okay, yeah, this is more complex than what I thought it would be. So yeah, no, 100%, I love this. I got to do a little bit of pixel animation for Cellmates when we did a stupid game. It is a
I
game
haven't seen
on
that one.
the
I gotta check
website.
that one.
Yeah, there's a game on the website where you're a cop and you're jumping from building to building. And it was my first first pixel art animation and first 8-bit because I thought like, fuck it, I'm gonna do the 8-bit music as well.
Oh man,
Might
no
as well,
way.
like do the. So yeah, that was quite interesting. But yeah, I mean, yeah, 100%. I get what you're saying. The limitation, and you have to set yourself some boundaries. I mean, otherwise it's a free for all. I think it's just like, yeah, you have to understand where the limits of. It's a weird one. I can't really explain it actually why art, like art style, would actually need some boundaries, because at some point you will need to break those boundaries as well.
Yeah, totally. I always think about that where it's like, but I think that's actually where it gets really interesting is like when you know like that you're breaking it and it's a conscious decision in some of these areas, there's like a really interesting tension that's kind of created in there. But
Yeah.
it's like but I would also argue that for me, I'm also like not the person who like feels like, well, you have to create it a certain way and then like you have to know the rules first to break them. I also don't agree with that. Like I think plenty of amazing filmmakers, artists, people have never been classically trained and they just have an eye and they just get it and they know what they're doing. And I totally align with when people are like, yeah, but it's still good to have working knowledge. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like I said, I'm not classically trained. I've never taken any like
No, me
real
neither.
art classes,
And yeah,
but like I still recognize that like once I started learning more about it, I was like, well, I still do want to learn about what have people built, what are they building, how does the scene work, and how are people doing stuff. But like I'm not a believer that like you have to know every rule. Like I think
no,
I love color, but I don't know analogous, complementary, and like all the color theory. Like I don't abide by color theory personally.
no, yeah, I would agree with this 100%. I think that it's good to set yourself some rules, just because you want to work. If you want to have your own style, you need to work between some kind of boundaries. And this is mainly just so your work can be recognizable. Otherwise, you know, you're gonna start doing a lot of things that are
That's
very
so true.
different.
Yeah.
Like one of the
You know what's
first
funny
rule.
though? The last music video that I saw from you was the Big Boy one.
Mhm.
Um, and you
She's
know,
a big boy.
your style in that one is like obviously like a lot more painterly. It's a lot more like dimensional and it's full color. And
It's
obviously
full
like
color.
you still chose a very specific palette, which is kind of like that Technicolor palette.
Yeah,
But it's so interesting to see then your rules get retransit. It's not stippled. It's all smooth
yeah.
gradients and like, painterly effects, but yet you still maintain that sense of identity even when you're expanding your repertoire in that way. And I just got to say, man, it's so cool to see like the evolution of things because then you're combining it. And then it's like now you have some like like flat illustrations mixed with the dimensional ones. And then you have live stuff that comes in, like actual IRL film stuff. And it was really cool to see you mixing
But
those
the
mediums.
IRL stuff was also because like I didn't have either the time or the energy to do another minute of 2D animation by
I mean,
myself.
the pasta heads were pretty great. Those
Yeah,
are
they were
pretty great.
funny. Yeah, this did help me quite a bit. Um, but yeah, I mean the don't get me wrong, I love working with colors, and there's, especially when you just do black and white, suddenly having like the whole fucking color palette to
Yeah.
it's amazing, right? I just believe that this is a different genre. This
Yep.
is another style, So Macbeth is more Betty Boop, Max Fleischer, all these type of things, which I still believe is, inside of me core.
Yeah.
The music video that I've been putting out were more like Tom and Jerry, you
Yep.
know. It's like just a slightly bit older, 10 years older,
That's it.
15 years older, something like this.
You're moving
Um,
through time. It's like watching WandaVision, watching some of
100%.
your work there.
I've learned how to do 2D animation by doing music video. I'm never so you said you were not classically trained. It's the same for me, right? Like I went to a school to learn 3D animation, and it turns out all of the teachers were dog shit.
Mhm.
Okay,
Mhm.
but I was very lucky because my mates in that school were really good, and they were geeky dudes who really knew their shit, and so I learned a lot from them. And funny enough, like out of 30 people in that class, 15 of us moved to London,
Yeah.
and out of these 15, maybe 13 are still here.
Yeah.
So it's been kind of like a East London French ghetto
There's
3D.
some energy out there. It's
There's a
awesome.
weird, it's a weird thing happening. Um, some of the cellmates who came to the last event could testify to this. Like they my mates are always here. They are first and foremost one of my biggest inspiration because they're also the people who I came to this school as someone from the south of France who wanted to become a pro drummer.
Hmm.
You can't become a pro drummer in south of France, not a punk drummer in south of. There's no punk scene in south of France. That makes no fucking sense. So my parents put me in the 3D school because they had a little bit of sense, which I didn't, and I
Yeah.
made friends. And but yeah, the y- y- I see I went too far and I don't know where I was.
I mean, I still like where it's at, which is just ultimately like, I would agree with that. Like, I may not have been classically trained, but I
Yeah,
absolutely
classically
met
trained.
people
You
who
better
were
than I am.
willing to be amazing helps, like who were willing to
But
be like, oh, this is how I do it, and this is what I know.
exactly. No, but like that's the thing, like when we did do like drawing from nature in school, and I was always really bad at it. Like always, always, always. And most of my mates were better than I am, and still are, but they never really had the guts to put it out there. It's just that I think that's always the little thing of, and that's what I was saying. It's just like don't be ashamed of expressing yourself no matter the medium. And also, like, if you find yourself good at one, just fucking push yourself to do something else as well, because turns out it's more about thinking than actually hands. And um
It is. And
yeah,
and
it
that's
is.
that's why honestly, like, I have no problem with, like, I feel like I've gotten emails of people who are just like, "Oh, this person's kind of like doing your style." And
Oh
it's
yeah,
just like, honestly,
that's
like, I stand
great.
on the shoulders of giants for my work.
a
And honestly,
hundred
if the
percent
only thing somebody's adding to the conversation is they know how to replicate my work, like, they don't have what's up here. They don't have the way I think about it, the world that I'm creating, how I
Exactly. And
approach all these
you know
things.
what?
That's the like, knowing a program is
if
nothing.
tomorrow if tomorrow someone can do what I do, then cool. Fuck
Yeah.
it. Like, yeah,
They
just
likely
do it.
deserve to be there doing it.
A
Yeah.
100%. The work if you've done the work that I've done to get to the place that I am, and to be able to guess every little step,
Yep.
it's just like, yeah, that's fine. It's completely fine. I've had in my career, I've had that many times where a brand would tell me, like, we have someone who does your style for half your price,
Good
and
luck with that.
I
Yeah.
always go like, man, that's a good deal. Go for it.
What a great deal. Get
Just
it.
go
Yeah,
for
get
it,
it while
dude.
you can.
And they
Oh
always go
man.
like, uh, you know. But yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's funny. Yeah, but so I'm not classically trained. It was a 3D school. My teacher were not really good in 3D. I started working in the industry in advertising, post production, 3D up.
Yeah.
Um, I hated almost every little.
You also got to find what you hate in this world. I mean, it's good to find what you love, but like the
hate
good news
hate
is
is
the
great.
deductive process means you're going to find a lot of shit too.
If it rhymes, it's true, right? Hate is great. It's
Yeah.
just, yeah, it's just this, it's a strong feeling. You, if you only have hatred against things that you're ambivalent about, you shouldn't like
Yeah.
them, or you should, or you really
It
like them, but
develops those strong feelings.
you develop that. Yeah, exactly. It's a mature feeling, hatred, right?
I'd rather
So
have a strong feeling than just be generally apathetic.
yeah, I mean, anybody. I always felt like when I was in my 20s that when I met people like in their like 30s or 40s who were a bit jaded, I'd be like, well, maybe they know a bit better. But actually, I think it's just a trait of character. You decide. You decide if you're gonna be positive about things, or if you're gonna be jaded, or renty. Again, I wish I was a proper English speaker.
I mean, let's not forget the fact that you're speaking a second language here with me. And so I only speak one. So whatever you're doing is already existentially, exponentially better than what I can do.
Fair enough, but 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 it's still the problem with this, Justin, is that I've been spending almost 17 years in London, so right now I'm at a point where my French is dog shit and my English is dog shit, so I don't really speak any language really well, which is a weird way of
Mm.
being, right? Anybody
You're purely visual now. You're just a
I'm
visual being.
I'm like, when like someone like Indiana Jones is hanging out between two like pieces of bridges.
Mm-hmm.
These are two languages, like it's French and English, and I'm not speaking well any of those languages, right? Thank God I
All
have
right, listen,
illustration.
we have to cut it off
All
because
right,
it's been
sweet.
an hour and a half, and
It's
I
been
think Mal
real.
needs his computer back. Matt, this has been so fun. It has been so fun getting to connect with you, hear your story, but honestly, just shoot the shit with you and learn more about you as a human.
Same.
Like,
Yeah,
I
100%.
love your story, but honestly, I love how much you can talk about the process and what it means to really be an artist in this space for you. And I know that that's not something you always called yourself, but like, thank you for spending time with me. Thank you for sharing it. Like, it seriously means the world to me to get to have this time.
I was really happy to do it. I'm so happy because it's not so often that I meet, and when we met in London, I could feel it's not often that I meet someone that's like genuinely, have the same kind of feel. I don't know. Again, English is defaulting me, but
You don't
there,
even
there
need
was
it.
a
I get
vibe
it.
together that I felt like, okay, yeah, Justin, I think we could get what I'm coming from.
Yeah, I love that. Well, thank you so much for today. Obviously, this isn't the end of the conversation. I'm really excited to keep it
No.
going,
We'll
and
work together. I'm
that's
sure.
right.
I'd
Awesome.
be happy
Thank you,
to
Matt.
anyway. And
We're
I
gonna.
hope you
I
have
mean, you don't
a.
really have a choice now. Now we're all just kind of in it, so we'll keep going.
I'm here.
I'm here too.
I'm happy to challenge people to just fuck around with me. That's what I'm here for, right?
Awesome. Thank you, Matt.
All right, that is it for this episode. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you would like to help us out, head on over to proof.xyz and click on the reviews button at the very top and leave us a 5-star review. Thanks so much. Take care.